So I've just finished a book which was on what I believed to be for me a tired, old, boring and dry subject. But reading this particular book has changed all that. Hello everybody, welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, and I'm talking about an absolute corker, a book that kind of blew me away, even though there's nothing really new and radical in it because it was published quite a few years ago, and it's one of the best non-fiction reads I've read all year, and you're probably gagging for me to tell you what it is. Well, it is indeed Blitzkrieg by Len Deighton, From the Rise of Hitler to the Fall of Dunkirk. If you're a history buff, a military buff, or just a fan of fantastic, extremely meticulously and well-researched writing, then stop what you're doing and get yourself a copy of this now, or at least add it to your TBR. It'd be perfect for this final quarter of Historathon as well. It was a stone-cold 5-star read for me, and here's why. So when you hear, of course, the term Blitzkrieg, you immediately think of the lightning invasion of France in 1940. And yes, of course, Deighton covers that in incredible detail. But this book here, this wonderful little book, is so much more than just a narrative of that one battle. He takes us all the way back to the close and end of World War I and Germany's unconditional surrender, through to the chaos and the political chaos that followed that, through the Weimar Republic, all the way up to Hitler's seizure of power. He shows you how the very concept of Blitzkrieg was born, and actually it wasn't really born with World War II, but maybe, of course, you knew that, whereas I didn't. I always associated it with just the Second World War. Honestly, I'm tongue-tied even just thinking about it, to be honest. Yeah, but he goes into details of all the main characters involved with Blitzkrieg and the invasion of France, of course. Just how much luck was required in it. He goes into, one can almost say, a lot of detail, sometimes technical detail, which I thought would bore me, but it actually didn't. You know, when he goes into the different types of caliber for guns used and the types of tanks that each of the armies had at the time, and the history behind the development of those tanks. It was actually all really, really fascinating. I love when you get little tidbits and anecdotes, historical anecdotes in my historical reading. He looks at figures like Heinz Guderian, the genius or lucky madman, if you like, behind at least the Nazis' concept of Blitzkrieg that brought it into the fore of our kind of vocabulary. The book is structured to show us, as I said, the development of tanks, not just the German tanks, but other tanks, including those on the Allied side as well. Now, of course, Deighton is very famous for his spy novels, but he really is an exceptional historian. I'm very, very surprised. I've also made a start on another book by him, another non-fiction book by him called Fighter, which looks at the Battle of Britain, and it too, so far, is eminently readable, fantastically written. As I said, probably for those of you who are real buffs on the Second World War, you might not get much out of it factually, but if you haven't read it, you'll get a lot out of it in terms of the style, the way it's written, and the extremely good way that it's all put together. He dedicates pages to explaining exactly how tanks worked, types of radio sets they carried, the differences between the tanks, how the tank crews were able to sit in different formations and different tanks. I know it probably doesn't sound like the most exciting thing in the world for some people, and it wouldn't necessarily have been so for me, but I don't know, he really kept my attention. I was really rapt by reading it. It's not dry, it's fascinating. He links every technical detail directly to the success of the German campaign with their invasion of France and the Low Countries. Another big strength, of course, is his sourcing, because he actually interviewed and spoke with people who were there, both Allied and German participants. He uses their first-hand accounts to kind of cut away the chaff and the different myths that surround the whole Blitzkrieg campaign. And it really feels like he's inviting you kind of behind the curtain, as it were, to show you the reality and not just the legend that we think we know. So the book really changed my perception. You know, maybe I'm not as well read on World War II as I like to think I was, and exhausted by it, because, you know, I had fallen, I suppose, for a lot of these myths. You know, I thought that, you know, the French and the Germans were really quite weak, and the French and the British were really quite weak, and the Germans were much, much stronger. But it didn't really seem to be the case at all. And it was more down to, I suppose, communication difficulties, different doctrines, and just general incompetence, to be honest, which I suppose shouldn't be that surprising. The Allies seemed very ready to fight World War I all over again, you know, slowly, defensively, centrally controlled. The French were just, sorry to my French viewers, but there were just some unbelievable moments in there. Just as there were on the British side too. You know, I'm not having a go only at the French, but you know, the fact that they had so much of their technology still left in warehouses, and people in the high command were saying things like, "Oh, don't worry, nothing serious is going to happen until 1941." It's just, yeah, it just beggars belief, to be honest. But the Germans, you know, they had a different attitude, and they needed to. You know, they were up against it. You know, they had to be really aggressive. They had to act on the fly. And I think Dayton's very successful in kind of and convincing in the way he lays out the case that, you know, it wasn't just that the Allies were unlucky. They were defeated in some ways by themselves, you know, not just the advancing Germans. And of course, it ends with the pivotal moment of the halt at Dunkirk. He addresses the controversy, of course, as to why Hitler paused the whole advance, allowing 300,000 Allied troops to be evacuated from the beaches of Dunkirk. And actually, that inspired me to watch the who is it? Nolan. Not John Nolan. It's his uncle. Is it Christopher Nolan? Yeah, Christopher Nolan's film Dunkirk again, which I don't think I'd seen in its entirety. I might have seen bits of it years ago, but I jolly enjoyed it this time around, having this in my memory while watching it. It was a very moving film, actually. I know obviously some license is taken, but it generally is with a lot of Hollywood films, but very enjoyable. And the book itself, well, as I said, it's a corker, an absolute corker, and I recommend, even if you have a passing interest, to head out and get yourself a copy of Blitzkrieg by Len Deighton, From the Rise of Hitler to the Fall of Dunkirk, because I think you'll just be surprised by just how well written it is and how much it will keep your attention. So if you're looking for a book on the Second World War, part of it at least, that is dense, it's dense with detail, but incredibly clear in its writing, then, as I said, I think this book is for you. It's compelling. It's meticulous in its research, and the account explains the why of the early German victories as much as the how. It's a masterclass in military history. I think that's not too much hyperbole there. It's definitely an enthusiastic 5 out of 5 stars for me. And I'm curious, as I wrap up this video, have you read any of Len Deighton's nonfiction? Have you read any Len Deighton anyway? Because, of course, Dr. November's coming up soon, and it might be a good chance to dive into his fiction as well. And if you haven't, but you have a favourite book about the beginnings of World War II or anything connected with World War II, let me know in the comments below. Please, if you fancy supporting the channel, do consider liking this video and subscribing. I would be extremely grateful. And I shall see you all next time. Do take care. Cheerio, everybody. Bye-bye.